On the Col de la Croix-Maron, Richard Virenque over the top, ahead of Bjarne Riis and Laurent Brochard. Richard increasing his lead in the King of the Mountains. And then, as the riders get themselves into an assemblance in the main field, this crash happens. A Kelme rider brushing off the shoulder of Prudentia Indurain, and there are a number of fallers, including the green jersey of Eric Zabel. No one injured in the crash, but Eric Zabel clearly requiring a fresh bike from his team car. And on the descent now, Bjarne Riis, who knows all about the crash, urging on the rest of the riders at the head of the peloton to take advantage and to push the pace. And as a result, 13 riders in the lead now, and they're being pursued by Miguel Indurain, who has missed the break. So too has Tony Rominger. And in this leading group, apart from Riis, is the second overall, Abraham Olano, the third rider overall, Evgeny Berzin, and the 5th, 6th and 7th place riders overall. So this is an amazing break, taking advantage of the crash. At the top here of the Côte de Magenesse, 43 kilometers now covered. Again, Virenque just edging out Riis in the sprint finish, and Brochard getting the third slot. The gap is now 1 minute. And so the riders come up towards the top now of the Côte de Ventadua. That breakaway, it took 30 kilometers to bring back the yellow jersey, but bring back they did. And now we've got a more routine breakaway underway here now, as it's being led by Mirko Gualdi, Djamolidine, Abdoujaparov, Thierry Bourguignon, Didier Rousse, and the man who started the move, Bo Hamburger. And this has the composition, Paul, of a breakaway which might succeed. Now the heads of state have got themselves back in the peloton.
Well, they haven't actually desisted behind, because this lead has never extended over 1 minute 45 seconds. The front of the main field has always been pink, and they've always been the telecom riders trying to bring it all back together.
And the situation now at the front here, as we hear from the race, in fact, that 3 riders have given up today. Della Vedova, Frank Boyer and Thomas Fleischer, the latest. Now 3 more riders out of the Tour today. George Hincapie of Motorola has had a rather nasty fall on the descent leading up to this climb. He has a head wound, but he's back on his bike and racing, and he seems okay. Well, it's his teammate up here, Laurent Madouas for Motorola. There was an original breakaway of 18, then Hamburger got off the front, and now we're seeing remnants of the breakaway as they try to get up to the leaders.
It really has shattered over the last couple of kilometers. In fact, at the back of the race, it looks like it's a back wheel puncture there for Bjarne Riis, and that will be a drama for him and his teammates. His teammate there looks like Brian Holm, who's also putting his hand in the air just to signal that the yellow jersey has a flat tire.
Well, Holm himself has had a flat today, but he's got back. But the yellow jersey wants service. He's pointing to his back wheel, and he wants a back wheel. And the maillot jaune is off his bike. Well, the whole field has seen him stop because he was right at the front as he slipped down for that wheel. The mechanics are out of the car pretty quickly. The change should take him around 8 or 9 seconds, and that's not a bad one. He's straight back in with the convoy still behind the race. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for Bjarne Riis, and I'm not too sure whether the race will attack him, although he did attack Paul early today when he saw that crash.
When the crash went on the top of the first climb, Bjarne Riis found himself at the front of the race with nearly everybody there apart from Miguel Indurain, and once he saw that they had a lead, he really put the hammer down.
Well, this is the situation on the screen here as the count back on the left of the picture there. That's the gap as the leaders have gone over the top. But there's Riis now being held back by his teammates into the race as they go over the top of the Côte de Ventador. And you've got 3 riders here, and I think one of them is Jens Heppner, who has waited back at the front there. But there's no panic here. The yellow jersey just going back through the team cars will rejoin the race, and I think when we caught a glimpse of the bunch there, Paul, they weren't too bothered at all.
Well, most of the work at the front of this bunch was being done really by the telecom team, so once they stopped to wait for the puncture there of Bjarne Riis, the whole impetus would go out of the main field, and it won't take Bjarne Riis very long before he gets to the front again.
Up to the second sprint of the day at Égletons, a town that was named after the English here during the 100 Years' War. As they come into the sprint, remember the first sprint went to Eric Zabel, but he hasn't been seen in the picture since that change of bikes after the crash. He is safely back in the peloton, but he's keeping quite a solid lead in that green jersey points competition. And so riders who have no interest in the competition will be racing for the prize money here as they come into Égletons. Madouas, one of the Frenchmen, Didier Rousse at the back here. not to be confused with the man who has been attacking almost daily on our screens, Laurent Roux, who is another Frenchman. He rides on the TVM team.
There's no major contestant really for that sprint. It's not really important anymore. What's more important is for these 6 riders to try and build up a lead over the chasing group of 6, which contains 2 riders from the Mapei team. One there that we can just see is Andrea Taffy. The man at the back who's been aggressive over the last couple of days, 142, is Katai from the Roslotto team. And in fact, there coming back is number 72, Bruno Boscardin.
And they could well get back, this little group, because they're not very far behind. Anyway, memories of the past for Djamolidine Abdoujaparov, the former sprinter, we'll call him. He seems to be going for the long ones these days. Abdoujaparov getting the sprint there in Egleton. And so they've now got the Côte de Ventator behind them and the sprint at Egleton. There's only one more obstacle in front of them today, and that is the tight little climb up to the finish at Tulle. We're now back with the leaders of the Tour de France. There are 6 of them here, and Bo Hamburger at the start of the move, joined by the 5 others as they approach the 20 kilometers to go banner. Laurent Madouas, Mirko Gualdi, Djamolidine Abdoujaparov and Didier Rousseau. The other ones, they've just dropped, in fact, the Frenchman Thierry Bourguignon. He's falling back to a chasing group of 6, but Paul, they're over 2.5 minutes back now.
5 minutes to the main field as well. This is the group of 6 chasers you can just see here. And in that group, there's Andrea Taffy, Rolf Jährmann, both from the same team. Katai, the man from the Roslotto team that we've seen riding over so well over the last couple of days, and a teammate of Bo Hamburger, Jesper Skibby.
And there's the yellow jersey of Bjarne Riis being trailed by number 1, Miguel Indurain. And probably any plans Miguel had today, Paul, were taken out of him, I think, with that fall and the long chase back by the group he was left in.
I think he was caught out by surprise there. I don't think he expected anybody to attack over the top of that crash at the top of the first climb, and that's why he was probably sitting a little bit too far back in the main field. But it took him almost 35 kilometers to chase back, so that would have taken a lot of steam out of his chase and his thoughts of trying to attack today. The last couple of kilometers, Bo Hamburger in the yellow jersey, who's just going through at the moment, has tended to miss a turn every now and again, trying to recuperate a little bit, because he was at the front for a long time on his own, setting the pace, and it seemed to me that he should have sat up and waited for the main group. But maybe when he got the information that that group was 19 riders strong, he didn't want to go back and wait for them, and eventually this group of 6 or 7 riders came across to him. Mirko Gualdi there emptying his pockets. This is much more of a psychological thing to do for riders at a time like this. They want to make themselves feel as if they're getting as light as possible, and with a mountaintop finish as the one we have here, as you get closer to the end there, you'll probably see 1 or 2 riders dispatching those bottles as well.
There's Bo Hamburger. Now he's a man, if he's got the strength left after his long breakaway, who could dance happily up the climb to the finish. He's a very good climber. He has ridden in the Old Kellogg's Tour of Britain in Britain and in the Nissan Classic in Ireland, so he's pretty well known. And in fact, they're telling us now 1 minute 50 is the gap back to Thierry Bourguignon, so he's still in no man's land and being chased by a group of 6, and all in turn being chased by the peloton, although chase, I think, is the wrong word at the moment. Hamburger here is going to make the best progress of the overall classification. Could find himself in 12th place tonight. Then he might have to start thinking of not winning a stage, Paul, but getting a high finish in Paris.
Well, that would be a very good move for him. It's amazing, though, as you said earlier, that there are only 5 Danes in this race, and every one of them seems to be a world-class rider. None of them have done anything bad at all. They've always been at the front, and must have a lot to do with the fact that they do get an awful lot of television time. But Hamburger has always ridden well in the Tour de France. In fact, he doesn't have a win to his credit this year, and they do seem to have that knack of bringing themselves to form just at the right time.
Well, the poursuivant, 3 minutes 25 seconds back, is that group of 6, and so this group has taken a minute out of them in the last 12 miles, last 20 kilometers, so they're pulling away from the chasers, who might well get swept up in the end by the big bunch. There's the main field. The racing started early this morning. The riders, in fact, set a cracking pace because of the problems of the crash and the split off the back of Miguel Indurain and the Benesto team. in the first 2 hours of racing, they had covered 47 kilometers in the second hour of racing. So they covered over 90 kilometers in the first 2 hours today, and they'd averaged 45 kilometers an hour. And so they really did get on with the job in hand. And now they're speeding towards the finish in Tulle. The breakaway finally forming midway through the race. And Bjarne Riis then decided that it was to be the break for the day. He never reacted, and neither did the rest of the riders in the overall classification leaderboard. Now, one of these 5 men are going to win the stage today as we come through 179 kilometers done, and that makes about 7 to go, but 2 of them uphill.
That's what's going to make it difficult. I think the 2 Frenchmen must feel they've got a great chance of winning, but really Mirko Guialdi is a little bit of an unknown quality. The man was a world champion in 1990 and turned professional the following year, and never really seems to have come to the front. But over the last couple of days, we've seen him going into these breakaways, and it could well be a stage victory in the Tour de France could really change his career.
Well, it won't be the storming of the Bastille, Paul. It'll be the storming of Tulle, because it is a very, very nasty climb. And for the people at the finish line, they have a great view right down all of the slopes of it into the bottom where they start. There we are. Welcome to Tulle. And the riders now heading to cross this lovely little town, and then they'll start the climb up to the line. Bo Hamburger has the lead, followed by the former world champion, Mirko Guialdi from Italy. And he's never won, I don't think, hardly anything since he turned professional.
Hasn't had a victory to his name. He really has had a strange career. It always looked as if he was going to come through. He's been in 1 or 2 breakaways. He's had 1 or 2 placings in the top 10, but nothing of great note. But the last few days, as we said, he really has been riding well, and it could well be that today's going to be his chance. But the 2 Frenchmen really must think that they have got a chance of winning on Bastille Day. And in the first kilometre of the climb, they will know whether or not they can do it, because it really is a tough climb.
Well, little Didier Roux, he's had a couple of great second places this year. He had second in the Flèche Wallonne, and he had second in the Paris-Camembert. He was unlucky to be in the Paris-Camembert final with a great sprint in Adriano Baffi, and that's what he said when he finished. It was his luck to have broken clear with one of the top sprinters from Italy, and of course he was beaten in the sprint. But you know, Paris-Camembert's an uphill finish too, and this might be the race for Roux.
It could well be. He's ridden exceptionally well this year, though. He did beat his own teammate Chris Boorman in the time trial in the Criterium International. That race Boorman won in the overall standings. So Roux has come on a lot this year. He was beaten by Lance Armstrong in the Flèche Wallonne in that tough uphill finish. But the man just going out of the picture there, Laurent Madouas, he won a very tough stage of the Tour of Sweden in Husqvarna. That was an uphill finish. So everybody knows exactly how to react in a situation like this. But after a long breakaway, you don't know how your body has reacted, if you've taken on board enough water, if you're losing a little bit of your strength. And that's what they will know as soon as they get to this climb.
Well, it's now 3:35 on the chasing group of 6, and it's 2:15 on Bourguignon, who's doing well to hang off, still in front of that chasing group of 6. So they've no worries from anybody coming up from behind. The winner of today's stage is right here, and Madouas takes them through. They'll be well aware of what has gone on behind. They will have been told, but now the cars won't be allowed to go to them anymore as we come to 4 kilometers to go. Just look at the crowds here in Tulle, a massive crowd, yet the finish is still outside of town as we climb away from this beautiful town. And the riders now are starting to jockey a little bit. Hamburger, the gap opened there by Madouas, and Hamburger's had to sprint it closed. Didier Roux going on the right. I know that Chris Boorman would be absolutely delighted if Roux won, because they're pretty good friends.
Well, Madouas there showing all the knowledge of an old professional there. He knows for the line. In fact, he's moved to the back to try an attack down the right-hand gutter. What a great move by Madouas there. He forced Hamburger to come in front of him, and there's no reaction. Now the reaction comes from Guialdi, who knows we're very close to the finish, and he's gone straight down the right-hand gutter.
A great move by Laurent Madouas. Guialdi's reacted. In fact, Roux made the mistake. He watched him sprint past, looked at everybody else to make the move. It's those vital seconds of hesitation which wins stages in the Tour de France when there's a group of you. But it looks as though the reaction of the former world champion has countered the move. But look at Djamolidine Abdoujaparov right there.
Well, Abdou's the man who made the move. He realized the danger of that attack by Laurent Madouas. I'm not really sure why Madouas attacked on the flat. He should have waited until we got onto the climb, where he would have had more of an advantage. And you see everyone now a little bit nervous, looking over their shoulders, which will give these 2 riders a chance to come back. All the time, Hamburger's sitting at the back a little bit, and he won't be. In fact, Hamburger's going to go as well.
3 kilometers from the finish. 2 of them, a little bit more than 2, are uphill, and now Hamburger has put in his attack. Madouas looks across to see who's going to go, because I don't think Laurent can go just at the moment, and neither is anybody else, so Madouas has had to go again, and Hamburger has a bigger gap than Laurent Madouas had. So it's Madouas, and then we've got Djamolidine Abdoujaparov, and then Gualdi, and then Roux.
Well, there's excitement in the commentary position next to us as the Danish commentators feel that they're going to get it. But Abdou has put the hammer down and he's jumped right across to Hamburger. He realizes that Hamburger must be tired. He was at the front of the race for an awful long time, and Abdou has moved up into second place.
Abdou's got now second on the road. Didier Roux is coming through. Madouas grits his teeth and gets back onto the wheel of Mirko Gualdi here. He's had one go. He needs just a few seconds to recover. Maybe he can have another go. The last drink for Madouas, I'm sure that bottle's gone into the public. Now they're racing across the river. Shortly they'll start the climb away from Tulle. And in fact, Abdoujaparov shakes his right arm there. He wants Hamburger to come through, but Hamburger's not so sure he wants to come through right now.
So these two riders have got to build up a little bit of a lead before they get to the bottom of the climb. They'll be looking at these banners every time they go by. That's going to tell them it's 2 kilometers to the finish, and they'll know that's 2 kilometers uphill.
2 kilometers all uphill now. The climb has started, and Djamolidine Abdoujaparov accelerates again, and I don't think this time Hamburger has the answer. Well, we're now seeing a sprinter becoming a climber for the day as Djamolidine Abdoujaparov goes clear. They've hit each other twice in that last couple of kilometers, and I think they may be soft enough now for Abdou to go clear. This is a great move and well deserved.
Most certainly, he's the man who's been in the breakaway so many times the last few days. He may not well be able to win a sprint anymore, but the move he's made here reminds me very much of the move by Guido Bontempi when he won a stage into Wascal a couple of years ago. He was in a group of 9 or 10 riders. He had a great chance of winning the sprint and said, I can't wait for this. I haven't got the confidence anymore. I'm going for it. But the reaction must come from behind. Can't see anybody.
Oh, he looks so cool, Abdoujaparov. He's just sitting in the saddle and keeping up the tempo. He's gone clear of them. Those little legs that have won him 3 green jerseys over the years in the Tour de France from sprinting. This is the man, as you may remember, had that terrible crash on the Champs-Élysées a few years ago. Well, he's recovered from all that now, but he now keeps his nose clean by going for clean wins without the sprint. Look at this as he stamps on the pedals up the climb.
Well, reactions come behind from Mirko Gualdi, and he's shadowed by Laurent Madouas, and this time Bo Hamburger has disappeared from the scene, but it looks as if Abdoujaparov really has stolen a march on the rest of these riders.
The hill will get steeper. This isn't the worst part, I have to say. He will come out of the shelter of the houses in a minute, and they'll be in the open country. Right in the distance there, you can see where we're sitting, up on the top of the climb.
It looks as if he's got enough of a gap there. He's just got to hang on and keep his tempo on the final part. Madouas realizes now he's got to put the hammer there. They go under the red flag as well. Gualdi was with him, and Madouas realizes he's got to try and get back to Abdoujaparov. He finished second in the stage of the Tour de France last year in a mountaintop finish to Gouzet-Neige, just behind Marco Pantani. Gualdi now goes.
Gualdi goes, Madouas digs deep. He's just trying to hang on to Gualdi's wheel. He's carrying all French hopes now on Bastille Day. He's got up onto the back wheel there. Now, can they get across to Abdoujaparov in the last 600 meters? I think if they hope to, then Madouas is going to have to accelerate again. Here is the little man with the big heart, Djamolidine Abdoujaparov, heading up towards the finish. Once a sprinter, now a climber, as Mirko Gualdi, I think, is just about to sell out here, and Laurent Madouas would do well to go round him.
Well, if he can, but both of these riders suffering. They've attacked twice at the bottom of the climb, trying to get across there, but Abdoujaparov in the front is just keeping his own tempo. He knows he has to survive. They're in one of the steepest parts of the climb here. You can see both of the riders out of the saddle, fighting with their bikes, just trying to get up to Abdoujaparov, who now has about a 150-meter lead.
And I think he knows he's done enough, but now his face is one of pain. But very soon it'll be one of joy, because he's rounding up towards the finish. And Djamolidine Abdoujaparov, I think, is going to win this stage. They're not going to catch him now. That grimace is slowly turning to a smile as they count down to the finishing line. Here he comes now, the man who has been the champion sprinter of the Tour de France, and that green jersey is now going to show them he can win at road race stages as well, even when they finish uphill.
Oh, what a great move by Abdoujaparov. He's used all of his experience. He's going to take one of the greatest victories, I think, and he will cherish that as he comes across the line to win here. The sprint behind is going to go to Gualdi, who's just outspaced Laurent Madouas as they come up to the line. They look back, and what a move by Abdoujaparov.
So Abdou gets it, Gualdi second, Madouas is third, then comes Didier Rousse, and that means that Bo Hamburger, the man that started it all, will have to be content with 5th place today. Here he comes, and then there'll be a wait before the big peloton arrives today. And so the hottest day of the Tour de France so far, and the surprises continue. The man we always call a sprinter winning on a climb today, Djamolidine Abdoujaparov from Uzbekistan.
My name is Djamolidine Abdoujaparov. He's hello in Australia. Yeah. Well, Neil,